Ironheart, Season 1. This is a spoiler review. I have a review up on my blog, soundedbettermyhead.com. I don't believe there's any spoilers in there. I ended up giving this show a 2 out of 5. It was just pretty mediocre. It just never really did much to like take it to like that next level. There was some stuff in the finale that was pretty interesting, but it was a finale, and not knowing where the story would potentially continue off on, it's like almost meaningless. Plot wise, it's the main plot is bare bones. Like, all right, we know that Riri needs money to complete her iron suit. She's willing to commit some minor crimes in order to get that money. And you would think, it would turn out that the bad guy, in this case the Hood, is into some pretty bad stuff, and then she's going to have to stop him. Except he's really not. As a matter of fact, she doesn't even stop his master plan, and it doesn't even make it like a difference. The only real problem that she runs into is that she gets on his bad side and he wants her dead. Otherwise, it's pretty inconsequential what happens between the two of them. And then even her individual story arc is kind of flat. Like we know she really wants to complete this suit. She beats around the bush every time someone asks her why she wants this suit so badly. Finally late in the season we get her reason, but it makes sense, but it just didn't connect enough for me to say, okay, I could see that she would commit crimes and do whatever it would take to get this suit, the money for this suit. So it's like just didn't quite hit the way it should have. And also very similar notes for the Hood. First of all, I think they should have laid out his plan a little bit better. Like, we knew he was doing a couple heists, and there was supposed to be a big heist at the end, but we didn't know who he was hitting or why. Like, I think they really should have played out, like, we're going after this guy. This guy's super rich. These people work for him. We're working our way up to take out this big bad, businessman. And then, then you could have the reveal that it's his father later on, like they did. But it's like, there's no anticipation for this, final part of his master plan. A couple flashbacks later that sort of start to flesh stuff out. I don't even know why he would have needed his team to do what he did. He basically walked in there with his Hood. Like, he did end up getting Ezekiel to take out some of the security, but he could have just walked in there invisible with his Hood and took out some other guards. Another thing with the Hood, like, Riri gets really worried about him coming after her going into the mid-season, and he's doesn't do much at that point to be that intimidating. Like, from what we see, the Hood lets him turn invisible, and it lets them basically shoot bullets and then kind of control where they go after the fact. I don't know anything that they don't seem like they're like armor-piercing bullets or anything. So her in an iron suit, like, seemed like theoretically she should have been able to mop the floor with him based on what she knew at that point. Supposedly the cloak's damn near indestructible, except we already know her laser can cut it. So it seems like her where the laser could have took him down, or she could have easily got him when he's not in the Hood. I mean, granted, he could have came after her when she wasn't in the suit, but she was the one fearing her for her life. Personally, what I think they should have did was she should have fought him, and he should have been able to show that actually he's tougher than he looks. Kind of like when they did fight in the finale. Kick her ass, and then she needs a new armor. Then she needs a tap in the magic to like even the odds against him. And I think you could have saved Zeke for like a setup for another project. Whether that other project happens is irrelevant. I think that would have been a little bit better. But that's me saying what the story should have done as opposed to what the story was. As far as the rest of the characters, the Hood's crew was okay, kind of colorful. Some stood out more than others. But like one of them, they just come off as like, they're criminals, but they're like, they're family, and they're not necessarily bad people. Like, I know they didn't feel like these guys were all murderers, except when he said to go murder Riri, they were having absolutely no problem going out and killing her, and she was part of their team. Like, he tried to tell them that she killed John, but I don't felt like that. I didn't feel like that was enough to turn them like the hardcore killers. It's just like, so I don't think that works. So it's just like, on one end, it's just like, they're not like a lovable group of misfits. It's like they're somewhere between that and like killers. And it's like, it doesn't seem to balance out enough for me to like root for them or not root for them. I never felt Xavier added that much to the story. I didn't think Riri's mom added like a ton to it, which is fine. You know, there was not, the mom's not like the big character in these superhero shows most of the time, anyways. But it's like, so I feel like Xavier was set up as something a little more important, and then he kind of fizzled out until like the finale. I know he was supposed to be like a kind of like a love interest, sort of. Who else we got in there? The big one was obviously Natalie. I think it hurts that we never heard of Natalie, we never heard of Gary, we never heard of this part of her backstory until now. I mean, I know it's based on the comics, but I don't know where you would fit this in Wakanda Forever. You know, her only other appearance for Riri, but it could have been in there somewhere, because it's like they really quickly introduced the concept that she had a best friend and a stepdad, and that they're dead, and how important they were to her. And then, you know, I think the Natalie AI would have been a little bit harder when the AI was formed. Yeah, I think in the books there was definitely a pretty big time gap between Natalie's death and the Natalie AI, and I think that would have worked a lot better for the show. They could have found some way to make me feel that passage of time. But the character really grew with me. I really liked the dynamic between the two of them. The ending was weird because apparently the Natalie AI was deleted, but now the real one's back somehow, presumably because of Mephisto. If the end, the end is what really happened. Before I get to Mephisto again, because I just threw that out there, the other characters I did like was, I believe it was Zelda was the sorcerer in training. It took the show in a weird. Granted, the cloak was always magic, but it kind of took things in a weird direction. They kind of get that hardcore into the magic, and it was this weird fine line between like Agatha along witchcraft and like Sorcerer Supreme magic. But I kind of liked it, and then like I said, this was thrown in fairly late in the season, so it's like, I don't know. I wish there was a way we could have got that in a little bit earlier somehow. Like, we met Zelda's mom at the beginning of this show, but she doesn't show up again until the end. And then obviously, it was leaked that Mephisto was probably going to be in the show. I know they try to throw you off of going with Dormammu, especially because he does have ties to the cloak in the comics. Mephisto stuff was good. It's just, it was a final episode, and it's like, where does this go from here? What was he really trying to get out of, the Hood? What's he trying to get out of Riri? Is it just their souls? Like, it seemed like the cloak was possessing the Hood more and more. It was like, does it have to possess him all the way for Mephisto to get his soul totally? Like, it was really big on what he was 100% after and how that was going to manifest. But it was interesting that it was there. I wish we would have got a full-on look at him as his demonic form. We do get the little quick glance at it, like a reflection. But again, it's like, almost felt like you turned into like a different show for that finale. It's like, you get this big fight scene with her and the Hood, that one was pretty good. The one with her and Zeke wasn't the greatest. But it's just kind of like, I don't know, just like she had this fight scene, it's over, and then you get to this kind of weird ending that's like she sold her soul, I guess, and she kind of lived happily ever after, except the devil owns her soul. Like I said, it was so kind of like, wait, where are we going with this? I also touched on Zeke a couple times. He was fine. He felt like his arc was pretty fast. He went from this kind of, soft kind of guy that's like not want to have any kind of like confrontation with people to like trying to kill people basically, or at least consider beating them up and like enhancing himself with all his tech. I also thought it was like way too quick that the cops found this little piece of tech and somehow were able to trace it to him, like just like almost overnight, and then also blamed it all on him, despite the fact that this other guy was found dead that was probably wanted for like a lot of other crimes. And you maybe want to look into those other people we're connected with. Which I'll throw this in here now too, because before if I don't remember this later, Rampage was fired from the team. We found out that he was killed, and somehow they faked it where it looked like it was an overdose, but it wasn't. Like, I don't know how they were able to make it look like he faked his death, or he overdosed. Especially because the cops were like asking other people if the cops thought it was an overdose, like why are they asking like Riri's family like if she knew anything when it was supposedly an overdose? Like, unless that was after the fact that did they pay somebody off? I don't know. It just was a weird thing that happened, and I'm nitpicking it. Other than that, the show looks reasonably pretty good. I think the suits look good overall, even though they all pretty much CG. I think they added kind of a tactical amount to them, like a tactile sense, kind of feel to them, like almost like the earlier Iron Mans, where you feel like, they got to close around, or you see this, different parts to it, and like they're mechanical parts of the move. It's not like Iron Man's armor that almost gets magical in the later movies, where it's like nanites. It still looks like I said, it's still not 100% like believable because it's like the way it wraps around her and it's CG and all that stuff, but you buy into a little bit more than some of the Iron Man suits, except for her last suit. Like does not look like this is the kind of suit you could build with like spare car parts. It's almost as good as her Wakandan suit, where she had like unlimited resources. And the action was okay. Like you had a lot of out of costume action sequences. I think one of the biggest ones, and probably the best one, was her taking on, the crew trying to kill her. The one with, like I said, her in the hood was decent, just a little short. The one with her and Zeke, the first time was actually halfway. It started off a little weak, but I did like the end of it where he's tearing off her armor. Zeke beating up security guards looked kind of stupid. Just looked off. I think that's the gist of it for the show overall. As usual, I got some notes. I'll see if anything here is worth mentioning, if I haven't mentioned it yet. Actually, a small one right at the bat. Like, an Iron Man suit seems like it's a pretty big deal. Like, they're pretty... Outside of a couple characters in the MCU, like, nobody really has it. So it seemed like it would have been a bigger deal that she seemed to have completed an Iron Man type suit at MIT. Like, it should have been pretty impressive. Like, holy crap, this girl can build Iron Man suits for us. But no, they just kicked her out of school. I mean, granted, I know she did a lot of wrong, but it seems like you would want to work something out with someone with that much talent. And it's still kind of weird that she went from... This story almost feels like it should have been the Riri we met at the beginning of Wakanda Forever, and this would be kind of her next step, as opposed to her becoming like a hero and fighting, alongside the Wakandas against the people from Atlantis. And then now she downgrades back to this. Like, just feels like a weird high to go back down this low again. Next, we got a couple of Man Report shout-outs. I mean, it's a fairly important location in the Marvel Comics, and it's been popping up here and there in the MCU now, and just helps the universe feel a little more fleshed out again, and like ties it back to those classic comic book roots. It's always just nice when you hear it. Now, another weird thing, but their first heist in Tunnel, it's like a lot of it's like pretty blatant. Like maybe they deleted the footage, but everybody got a good look at like what these people look like. People probably saw this Iron Man suit flying around these tunnels. Like, it's no effort to hide themselves, unless there was something in the contract that she signed, basically like, oh yeah, and you can't tell anyone what you saw. But that was never brought up, and that it didn't seem like that was enough what they did to make her want to sign over a part of her company either. It's like, really, that's it? Like, you just kind of sabotage this thing and she signs it all over? Another thing about the Hood they don't mention, I know from the books that he has to hold his breath to be able to turn invisible, but the show never makes that clear. Like, there's a sequence where he's underwater for like 11 minutes trying to train himself to hold his breath longer, but they never tell you why. It just looks like he's trying to be hardcore training, I guess. So I think that kind of hurt. I thought it was interesting that the whole world thinks that Obadiah Stane was a good dude that died in the plane crash. Like, nobody knew what really happened to him, except his son knows. I'm not sure how his son would really know. Maybe he hacked into something and found out the truth. You would almost think that might have been out in S.H.I.E.L.D.'s file, because most of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s files were leaked in Captain America Winter Soldier. So unless that was somehow not in there or people missed it. I don't know. Ryu's whole plan to steal part of the Hood's cape just seemed kind of weird. Like, it seemed like jumping the gun again. Like, again, she was like, granted, there was evidence that he might have killed someone that used to be on the team, but just the fact she's like desperate to get part of this cloak. Like, it didn't seem like the cloak was even that special. Like, she didn't even seem like she's seen that much to know that the cloak was special. So it was kind of weird that she was like so determined to get like a part of it. They would have emphasized more that Natalie was scanning some really like crazy energy off it. Like, she hints at it, but if she really would have said, no, this thing's freaky, crazy, maybe would have, I think, sold that to her trying to get the piece of the cloak a little bit more. And then like another nitpick, like when they were going to go try to kill Riri, like first thing they did was capture her suit, and then they went after her. It's like, how do they? It was just a kind of random thing that the suit went off and did its own thing, and Natalie went off and did her thing. Like, I don't know, how did they know they were separate? Were they originally just going to go to her house and take it, and then somehow they detected it was on this rooftop? Like, it was kind of a weird thing. And then even then you would think maybe she's in it because the thing's moving around. Like, you wouldn't know till you had it. Like, okay, she's not in it. We got to find her. So I thought that was a little weird. Like I said, the fight in the restaurant after that was pretty good. The punching the truck and flipping it and giving him the finger was pretty cool. I said most of the fight with Zeke was okay, just a lot of him shooting lightning at her. But I did, like I said, I like when he ripped apart the armor at the end, and there was a really cool shot where it was powering down and you see him looking in through the eye holes, which I thought was like pretty menacing. I also noticed that anytime the Hood had the hood up and he had his two pistols, I thought he looked the coolest. Like he looked like he's stepping out of the comics. I wish they would have showed that look a little bit more, because every time he popped on screen, like that looks cool. But then when he wasn't, or he just had the hood down, I'm like, eh. And like I said, the Mephisto stuff was interesting, but again, it was just kind of like coming out of left field that late. The only reason it even flowed a little bit better, I think, is that I kind of knew it was coming, or something similar was going to come along, like like this. And I said, it just kind of took the show in a completely different direction, except it was over. And then the post-credit scene was just generic. It's like, okay, he's looking for some big-time magic for, I don't know what, to get his cloak back, to get rid of his scar. Like, it was so vague. To kill Riri. I mean, why do we care? And why was he trying to manipulate Zelda into giving him, some cool magic? Like, I don't know. It was so vague and so like, why do we care about this? And it just seems so removed from, now Riri's like possibly in league with Mephisto. So, like I said, the show, there are moments where you can see some potential, but it just never got beyond first gear. It's like the villain's plan was mediocre. His motivation was so underdefined until like the last minute. Riri's like desire to get the suit was just never strong enough. Her reason for even conflicting with the Hood was just kind of half-assed, and like I said, she barely even really needed to stop him. And then, like I said, the Mephisto twist was cool, but it was so last minute. It's like, it's just not helping anybody out here. So I think that's it. Like I said, I have the spoiler-free review version of the review up. I have other movie reviews, TV show reviews, a couple video game reviews. I got my comic strips. All that stuff's over at soundabettermyhead.com, so if you want to check any of this stuff out, that's awesome. Other than that, thanks for watching.